make this event to be possible for us today. I would also like to thank the organizer, the NISCOM IIUM chapter, for inviting me to have a discussion with our fellow brothers, researchers, and students from different parts of the world, because we are now, people are listening to this from other parts of the world as well. So I would like to thank them for organizing very, very important events. And I also like to thank them for inviting me to share my little experience that I have, gathered for some time. I hope this kind of activity will continue, to assist and then to further propagate what we have all come here to do, and to share knowledge and experience. Thank you very much on that. Having said that, I would also like to congratulate International Islamic University, IIUM, having been awarded Green University. This is a very, very noble award, although many people don't really consider this as very important. So on that notice, I've decided to go green with my slide, putting elements of green to celebrate this noble award with IIUM and all the students, and to the entire Muslim in the world. Okay, the title of today's discussion, I wouldn't call it a research, workshop, I would like to be a discussion, is you and your research, because we are all living, having a lived experience when we talk about research, either as academician or as a student, as a supervisor, as a supervisee. So that's what I think the title, talk about research, it has to do with what we have been doing. So it is you and your research, with the hope that you are all here. For those who are here, we are all here together to discuss about our experience, about the research, the journey we have had so far, and what are the challenges and what are the lived experience that we have gathered during the journey. So to narrow the scope of the research that we are talking about research in the line of qualitative perspective, and we are going to discuss one of the instruments or one of the tools that is used to analyze qualitative research, which is Atlas-T. Okay, my name is Bakare, as I said earlier. So I hope many of us have the version of Atlas-T. Maybe it is version 8, which is the latest, or version 7 or version 6. So that when we get to the practical session, we'll be able to have more hands-on and discussion, and then question and answer as well. So basically, we're going to look at two aspects in this discussion. The first aspect is aspect that has to do with understanding what qualitative research is all about. And this aspect, most of the time, people don't normally sort of look into it. People focus more on the analytical tools, meaning the software, rather than understanding what are the basic assumptions or basic understanding that underpins that particular research paradigm. So I'm going to look into this briefly, and after that we will have a brief overview on how to use Atlas-Ti in qualitative research data analysis. Here, this will be the outline. We're going to ask why do qualitative research? Why do we go into qualitative research? What are the underpinning assumptions of qualitative research? how do I source for data in qualitative research? Then what are the steps involved in qualitative data analysis? And the last part would be basically using Atlasti to analyze the data. I will, since I've mentioned earlier that the scope within which we're going to discuss is on qualitative aspects. So, and then this has been organized by International Islamic University students. We have to bear in mind, we have to really sort of contextualize what we are going to do to have an element of Islamization in there. So I'll just start by looking into some of the verses that I normally discuss when we talk about qualitative or research in general, although this is just a very small interpretation, not as big as we have in the Mufassirun, but this is just a sort of interpretation when we talk about understanding what meaning of things or giving meaning to things. And that's what we do in research. We have to understand the meaning, and we have to really categorize things, and then we can then analyze. So this is the first, I normally refer to this when I'm teaching my students. I normally refer them back to this ayah that, and Allah taught Adam the names, all of them. Then he showed them to the angel and asked and said, inform me of the names of this, if you are truthful. So we all remember this verse, Quran chapter 2, verse 31. And the angel replied in negative, saying that it is only Allah that knows. For Allah asked Adam to tell all the names. Now, what we are trying to picture out here is that when we look at that scenario that happened, although it transcends time and space, so that nobody knows the time, it doesn't happen right here on Earth. But what we can understand here in relation to research is that we know that it's about identifying objects. And you cannot identify an object if there is no name given to it. And that is where things, the learning, understanding, discussion, and culture, that's where we pick things from, because everything that that you want to understand better, you have to have a name for it. So that is how human being evolve. So, and also when you talk about research, especially in the aspects, so we will be looking at categorization, categorizing things and giving them names for us to be able to identify them and then give them meaning. So mostly when we give them to things is for us to sort of give meaning to that particular things, and that's what we normally do or understand in qualitative, giving and getting meaning from things. Apart from this verse, I also like to look into this ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was talking to the Bedouin and is giving some signs around them. So when we look at this, is asking, he directs the Bedouin to consider what he himself witnesses. His camel that he rides, the sky that is above his head, the mountain that faces him, and the earth that is under him. And then if you look at all these are signs, and these are something that we can see in form of pictures. So what Allah is asking the Bedouin is to look at it and then make meaning from them. And what is the meaning? The ultimate meaning is for the Bedouin to understand these are the proof of the power of the Creator and the maker of all these things. So if you look at all this invariably, so you see that you look at the picture, you look at the scenario, and at the end you make a meaning and you have an understanding for them. So these are very, very peculiar to what we do, especially when it comes to qualitative research. You look at a picture, you look at things, and then based on that we have to give meaning. So the same thing goes to other parts of research, even if it is quantity. Ultimately, we have to give meaning and we have to give understanding. If not for all this, then all the research or what or be it quality or quantity will have no meaning. So I won't say this is just to contextualize what we are trying to do. That we are looking into research from qualitative and from meaning making point of view. Okay. Then we look at this quote from Einstein. Of course, there are so many arguments on that maybe it's not from Einstein, maybe it's from someone else. But most of the people ascribe this quote to Einstein, and that's one of the good things if you are a good person. Even though something is said, and they feel, oh, who should be able to, who should say this? People will always ascribe something good or something nice, and if it is otherwise, it may be that. So not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that can be counted counts. So this is a very powerful quote there by Einstein, talking about what can we count everything, and if we can count everything, they all make sense, that we should count them at a particular time. And if you are if you are familiar with what we call Simpson paradox, so you will understand that it is not everything that can be counted counts actually. I will give you this picture, so I will allow you to to tell me what you have seen in the picture. So what do you see in this picture?
A lady facing behind or looking behind.
Okay, great. Do you have any other person that want to tell us what he or she sees in the picture? Okay, we can proceed then. There is no everybody will give meaning to what he or she has seen in the picture, um, but it depends on what we see and what our mind will actually construe from the picture. But we are seeing one picture, and that is the fact, but we can give meaning in different form to the picture. So it means we to have a claim that what I've seen in this picture is the right thing, maybe it may be a tall order, maybe something you will have to argue with many people, because other people may see other things. Some people may be seeing animals, some people may be seeing human beings, some people may be seeing a ghost, and everybody will have his or her own argument towards what he or she has seen so far. So that's a very wonderful contribution. But what I just want you to understand is that people will have different understanding or different interpretation to what I put up in the picture. Let's have a look at the second one. We can see that the teacher is standing in front there, and the teacher is saying, or perhaps she's saying, what she felt is the actual thing that happened. You all did well on the test. You must have studied hard. But you can look at the responses from the students. You'll be very, you'll see that there are different responses. Some give, some don't give, and some simply don't. So it means sometimes what we think may not be the same thing that other people is thinking, and that doesn't mean that what we are thinking is wrong, or what they are saying, or what they are thinking is also wrong, or what they are simply giving as an interpretation is wrong. So these are one of the underpinning assumption or things that we have to understand when you come to qualitative research. I'm just trying to bring you down to understand what are the things that we should understand when we talk about quality. So you can see that there are different thinking and different understanding to what actually happened in the test, apart from what the teacher said. So if you go by what the teacher said, you will just then that means you will have to superimpose the opinion of the teacher on whatever actually happened, and that may be wrong in the long run. Now let's move on to this. Why do qualitative research? Why do we need to do that? through all this background I've mentioned earlier, why do we do qualitative research? What is the essence? Now, one of the things that we have to understand is we need to, like I mentioned earlier, talk about understanding, and giving meaning to things. Okay, I think you can put that down. So that is a very, very core aspect of qualitative research. Now, we are not understanding things in isolation. You know, so we are understanding things within the context where they exist. Okay, so we understand people and what they do and what they say. Okay, we also understand things within the cultural context, as I've mentioned earlier. And actually, that is is a very big area. We talk about cultural context, uh, simply talking about when people are born, people are born into the world of meaning. Okay, so what will be the benefit if you undergo quali? What will be what do you stand to gain? As you can read from the slide, and then you can see that there is another word that come up there: understanding the context within which decision and action takes place. So there are certain things that happen that we we don't contextualize it. If you don't contextualize that, then you may end up having a very wrong impression or interpretation of what actually transpired. So apart from that, if you are in a qualitative researcher or you intend to do it, so you will also have to understand makes what are the things that drive people, what makes them do certain things. You'll be able to understand that very well, and then you'll be able to understand why people do certain things within certain time or within certain space or within a particular context, if I may need to put it in a very clear way. And then you can understand this not at the on a very in-depth level. You understand? So you will be able to understand this in a very in-depth level. So these are the benefits that you gain. You understand things in the context and you understand why people do things within certain circumstances. So these are some of the characteristics of qualitative research. You have to go natural because you have to be part of you have to look at things in the natural setting. We don't talk about experiment here. We don't talk about maybe manipulation of things and all this as you do in other types of research. Researcher will be the key instrument. You don't have, you yourself will be the instrument yourself. It may not be the sending out instrument and then people have to respond. So you have to be the key instrument. So there are multiple methods, not only one. Very complex reasoning through inductive and deductive. And focus on participants' meaning. I've mentioned this earlier: meaning making and understanding, emergent design, and all this reflexivity and holistic account. Equally, you may when we talk about quali and we talk about analyzing what quali research, we may need to look at all these aspects. These are the things that we do when we undergo qualitative research, and like Creswell rightly put it, it's a matter of looking into data that ranges from transcription, images, video, and ultimately what you have to do to all this is to reduce them into coding, condensing them, clustering them, just for you to give names. And when you give name, then you give meaning. Like I mentioned in the first part that I talked about Adam and when Allah asked about the names. When you cluster them, you can give them names. And when it has name, then it must have meaning. Just if I mention tree, for example, then you all understand what tree means. There are thousands of trees in the forest, but it has to do with livelihood, so many things. But if there is no name given to tree, then understanding what it is and many things, it may be a bit difficult. And these are the assumptions I've mentioned. This will be interpretive research paradigm. There are other assumptions. There are other underpinning assumptions of quality. But I would like to look into this aspect. You can talk about constructionism and all this. So, but let's I will just restrict this. And what does this mean? It means understanding from your side, from their side, and we're talking about the truth. So now, you may not be able to monopolize what true means. The truth, as in when you talk about truth, you may not ascribe it to one thing alone or to one person alone. It may vary actually from one place to another. It depends on the lead experience of those people. Okay, so this is very, very important. So you must know that truth and understanding of truth is from your side and from their side. So meaning that you cannot say, oh, what I have done is the true, is the absolute true. So you have to look at it from other point of view as well, which may be somehow different from yours. Okay, I've mentioned meaning making. However, the kind of understanding being sought is determined by the researchers depending on their assumption and method. So that will no fact, only interpretation, according to what Nietzsche said. So meaning that if you want to claim that this is the fact, but actually the fact you are talking about is also interpretation of other people. So this is underpinning assumptions of these types of research. So no direct access to real world. This is no single eternal reality. So these are very, very important as opposed to other form of research. So what I'm trying to do here is to enable you to remove your, maybe let me put it, quantitative research hat and put on a qualitative research hat. So you cannot say my hypothesis is the truth and that is it. It is finalized. It's less than 0.05. All these things, that one is for the other side. So there is no single eternal reality. People construct their own reality based on subjective principle peculiar to that person. So this is, and we all involved in this in one way or the other when it comes to argument, and then we all say. So all knowledge is socially constructed. So this is the one of a very, very important philosophical underpinning our qualitative. So that when we start doing, maybe we do the analysis, we start coding, we do this, then you will understand why your coding may be different from 3-4 people. They may be having different, you have the same material, the same data set, but you are getting this different interpretation of this data set. Simply because you cannot say, okay, my own is the best or my own is the actual truth. That one is not in the underpinning philosophy of qualitative research. And you must also remember, all knowledge is socially constructed. That means we are talking about it depends on the context, it depends on the lived reality of the people that they construct meaning. And when we said people create reality on their own, it doesn't mean we don't need to have a very, but you can ask questions anyway to clarify that. Okay, so these are some of the assumptions that I've mentioned this earlier. Reality understood through perceived knowledge. So when you say perceived knowledge, is a perception from their side. And then here, we are not trying to generalize our findings. When you talk about qualitative, there is no generalization of findings here. Seeking to understand specific context. And it's a very, very important thing. As I've mentioned from the beginning, we are looking at things from the point of view of the lived reality of people and from the social, or maybe it may even be geographical context as well. All these are lived experience. Okay. So what are the sources of data there? We quickly move into this. What are the sources of data? We have data can be interview, it can be observation, it can be document, it can be video material, it can be pictures. So all these are the data that are used in qualitative research. Okay. Now, if there is a question now, you can, because now we are moving a bit into the aspect of the first step in data analysis in qualitative research. So I haven't talked about the aspect of underpinning philosophy, underpinning assumptions. If there are questions, you can ask. before we proceed. Any question?
I think no question. You can continue, Doctor. Thank
Okay.
you.
Now, having said that, so I assume that everyone understand what are the underpinning assumption that we are interpreting data, we are analyzing the data for us to get meaning, and this meaning is based on the context. We are not going to generalize this meaning, because if you try to generalize, what you get from the from the social reality that you have in your own area may be different. Although you may be looking, first step in this qualitative data analysis is to talk about coding, and code and coding in a very simple way. When you in communication, you talk about coding and decoding. So it's about information, or it's about giving meaning to chunks of words or a certain thing or a picture, just giving a kind of meaning to it. But so what we do there is basically we look at documents and we give our own meaning or understanding in form of maybe coding, maybe some people call it labeling, it depends. Okay, so if you want to be proficient in qualitative research, you must learn how to code well and easily. So this is the first step. If you don't understand coding, then it may be a bit difficult for you to proceed with the data analysis in qualitative research. So the excellence of the research rests in the large part of the excellence of the coding. So the more you are proficient in coding, then it means your research will be better. So this is the first step. Okay, I've mentioned this earlier. So it's most often a short phrase or just to describe a chunk of words, picture, video, audio. When you listen to them, and then what short name can I give to this chunks of word? What short name can I give to this picture? I mean, to depict the meaning. Then that is basically what you are doing with coding. But it's not just something that you do arbitrarily. Of course, you must have read the document very well, or you must have observed the picture or looked at the video deeply to understand before you can start to give it. So, for example, you can look down here as one of the examples of what we call coding. So, if you read this, I noticed that the grand majority of homes have chain link fences in front of them. There are many dogs with signs on fences that say beware of the dog. So if you look at this in summary, or if you want to give one word to code for this, you can here this guy is talking about security, and that's the word security there. It means you have made a code. There's a chunk of words, and then you have been able to ascribe one label to it, and that's the first step. But that label, you can always find it in these words, because this is what this person said, and from there we're able to reduce this to this. Here's another example here. So it could be from interview transcription. For example, he cares about me, and this is what transpired between teacher and student. And at the end, what we can deduce from this is that there is a sense of self-worth, there is a sense of stability for the student, and there is what we call comfortable in there, because all these are the codes for this for the statement above. Now, this will start from code to categories to theories. So in qualitative, that's how it moves. You start from the real, and then until you get to the abstract to get to the theory. So this is a picture that depicts what you actually do. Starting from the real world, what we mean by your contact. Okay, I think there is a sort of distraction there, no problem. You can see the codes there. The echoes actually coming from the what we said the horse's mouth, meaning from the participant, and then you move into the category. From category you move to subcategories, and from there you get the themes or concept, and from concept you go to theory. And I'm sure many of you must have heard what is called themes, maybe conference theme, conference of themes. All these are basically mirror against what we have in qualitative research aspect. So this is what the picture summary of how you do qualitative and what you end up doing. So it means in qualitative you develop theory there, and so you understand at the end you may end up building a theory, or you may end up developing a theory, but that theory doesn't mean it's a generalized one. Of course, all the theory that you have in this in your research actually started with someone observing something, or conducting certain research and come up with whatever he or she thinks within that area. That's how it started. You go to all these Newton and all these Einsteins of this world. Everyone is within their locality, and then at the end. Okay, so that is how that's the flow. Now we will that will be on the part of understanding, the first step in it. Now we go into this the Atlas TI. What is it all about? If many of us don't have the software, or we don't download the software, then just go through these slides, and in the end we will see what we can actually do together. We can ask questions, or we can practice later on. So what does Atlas TI do? What it does is it facilitates the qualitative analysis of research data. So if you have a data, qualitative research, this software will help you to do it. Actually, it's one of the software. There are many software used to analyze qualitative research data. There is MassQDA, there is MDBO, and a host of others. So this is just one of them. So it will help you to organize your data in a very good way, to be transparent enough, because in Atlas TI you can actually have more than one person working on a project. You talk about integration, you will be able to, you can integrate data, you can integrate your audio, video, picture, and text together. And it actually helps in triangulation of data. If I'm using some terms that you are not familiar with, don't worry, you can ask questions. Triangulation means you can sourcing data from, having data from different sources, then just for them to converge and give credence to whatever you have interpreted in your data. So it means it's a very common terms in qualitative research. So grounded in the evidence. So of course, when you have audio, you have video, and you have text, verbatim transcription from your audience or from your participant. These are very grounded evidence, or it may even be documents, maybe secondary data or articles and all this. So what does Atlas TI do? So one of the things that it does is semi-structured understanding. With focus group, field notes, observation. It can also be used for literature review. Maybe you will see one of it when you start the demonstration. Photo voice, photo elicitation method, and ethnographic video. These are some of the things that this software can help to do. This is the history. It started in 1989 in Berlin. So it became commercially launched in 1993. So it becomes something that can use on mobile in 2013, and now it become Mac in 2014. And then we have Atlas TI for Windows in 2016. So next we look at the data level. What Atlas? What are the data that you can actually work with in Atlas? The first thing, when you talk about level of data, there is level of data. There are data at the level of quotations. There are some at the level of memos and comments, and there are some at the level of codes and network. So you have more, you have queries and all. These are basically the features that you see when you work on the software. When we talk about quotation, it means that is more or less segmenting data, highlighting some data to get meaning from them. And when we say code, I've mentioned earlier, giving short names to chunks of words. And memos, apart from having codes, you may also need to write side memo. When you do qualitative, you may need to have a memo. Some people call it field notes, but in Atlasti we can call it memo, just where you can write some interpretation of certain quotes or certain nodes or quotations. So network is about using the diagram to show your codes, group codes and memos, and if you have group of quotations, then actually that one will be also displayed using a network. This is how it works. These are the documents you'll be having in that. These are the objects in. You have the documents, you have the quotations, you have the codes, and all this is the cycle. So in the object of documents, what are those things that are involved when we talk about documents? So you can have text, you can have graphic, you can have audio, you can have video, like I mentioned earlier. So, and the codes, this has been mentioned earlier, we discussed. So they are normally linked to quotations, but they do not have to be. Sometimes quotation can stand on their own if you are having an open quote or axial quotes, whereby you categorize and selective coding. Quotation can actually stand on its own. But if you have a code, that will be very, very good. Okay, it can be manually, it can be automatically. If you want the software to do it for you, it can code by just trying to generate what are the common words that appears in a particular text or a particular document. So this is that. Now, if there is no question till now, is it okay to proceed?
I think there is a
Is it okay to
question
proceed?
raised in the comments, in the comment typed
Okay,
comments.
can we have the question?
Okay, let me help the person to read it out. He said that I have a question about the interpretation. If I understood, doctor said in order to obtain the truth, we have to combine their interpretation and your. So I want to know, because I thought in the research, in the research, especially when we interviewing people, your opinion does not matter. You have only to interpret their opinions.
Okay, that's a very good question. I like that. So at the level when you are going into the field, of course, you have to be neutral, meaning, but it doesn't mean that you are going there empty-minded. When you are going there full of your own understanding of what you are talking about, but allowing the data to speak for itself, is it? So that's exactly what we are saying. That's exactly what we are saying. What we are talking about when we are talking about the truth, it doesn't mean that it means that you have your own truth, they have their own truth. That's what it means. Because when you go into the research, when you conduct the research about certain phenomena, you will have your own understanding, maybe through reading or through your own culture. And the people or the participant that you are going to interview will also give you another meaning. So it means what you have as your own understanding, other people also have their own understanding about the same concept. So that's what we are trying to say. It means it doesn't mean your own understanding is wrong. You understand? And it doesn't make their own understanding to be 100% right. You understand? So it just gives you a clear picture that this is how things are in the world. That what you may be interpreting to be the actual meaning, it may be different from another people. Actually, when you do this in phenomenological research design in qualitative, that's what we call hermeneutics. In this place, you have to bracket your own understanding there. When you interpret the data, you can put your own meaning, your own understanding, but it has to be in bracket. That's what we call bracketing, meaning that when you write, so it means you understand what the participant said, but in bracket, this is what you have. That is what you understand, and all this is part of meaning making. So a very good question. So it's actually the same thing. So interpreting what they said according to the context of your research, it doesn't really neutralize your own understanding. It's just to tell you that, okay, what you understand, other people also have another understanding about the same concept, and this can be shown. Even if you write, you can even indicate this is my own. You can indicate because this is qualitative. It is allowed, because sometimes there may be a conflict about, okay, this is what I read, this is what is then. You can always have the two and put yours in bracket to show what is coming from the participant. Okay, I hope that has been the question is I made it clear. So that is that. So it is the same. It is still on the same note. We are on the same note. I'm not discountenancing your understanding, and I'm not saying that you should superimpose your understanding on their own, but rather to show that there are different way of looking at things. Okay, if there is no any other question, can I proceed?
Yes, the question was very clear, and even the person who asked the question acknowledged. Thank you, doctor. You can proceed now.
Okay. Um, Now I'm going to show you some of the steps in Atlas T. Those are the, you look at the window, so that's where I'm going to go now. But if you have questions, please send the questions so that we can answer the question. Now, like I mentioned earlier, if you want to be good at qualitative, you must know how to code. And how do you code? The first step to do coding is quotation. That's the first thing. Quotation may mean highlighting certain segment. Maybe you want to put this particular statement or sentence, put it together, and give a particular meaning to it. Ascribing meaning, writing a short word, then decoding has begun. Now, as you can see here in this picture, you can see you have a picture in the Atlas T software, and then you can see a place I'm highlighted there. That's the first step. And once you highlight this, this is what we call quotation. That is quotation. Then the next thing after quotation is to write the meaning. What is the meaning that you can deduce from this particular um, sentence? And that is the decoding. Maybe one word or two words or a phrase. So the first step is to highlight this that particular segment of the text, and if you have existing code, you can just drag and drop this code on that particular segment that you have highlighted. So that is, and that procedure is called deductive coding. So it means you already have a set of coding, a set of terms or concepts written. You just highlight this particular part of the text, and then you you just drag and drop this on that particular segment to give you the code. So that is the first way, and basically this one is not it is called deductive coding. And anyways, okay, if it is related to the existing code that you have. If it doesn't, then you have to go for inductive coding, which is the next one that I'm going to show you. This is inductive coding. Inductive coding means you don't have any existing name or code given to that particular segment. You highlight the segment, you right click on it, and then you write code as MVivo coding. So the MVivo, I mean the Atlasti will just take this particular quotation and then give it a name by itself. So it means this is more or less like an open coding. There is no pre-existing code or name, or phrase given to that particular portion of that document. Then you can code as MVivo coding, or people call it open coding. Okay, that is this. That's that. And then how do you, when you start coding, you will see you have a lot of pretty lot of documents, maybe 5 or 10 interview. You have to code each interview one after the other. I code the interpretation, and then there will be a case whereby there will be many codes. Maybe one document you have 10 codes, and another document you have 12 codes, but there will be kind of overlap among this document. So you can actually do what we call, organizing of code. You organize the code into family. So by combining codes that are similar from each text, from each participant saying the same thing, or you give them the same code, you can organize them to be under one family code. We call this code grouping. Okay, so that will give you what we or maybe call it categorization. You want to call it. So maybe you are now putting all the codes into category. So this can be done in the Atlas. Just highlight all the code, and then you can drag into the other side, or right click on them and give them. So when we start the practical part, you will see what I'm saying clearly. Okay, and there is what we call auto coding. So maybe you have a document and you want to check for certain words. Then you can just type the words in the Atlas, and then you ask the software to do the coding. So the software, what it will do, it will go through all the text and then code all the name, all the words that has, like for example, family here. It will put them in a code for you. It may be in form of sentence. You may say, okay, one sentence, maybe a phrase, maybe words. So it's up to you what you want to choose. But the system will help to combine all these and do all the coding for you. Even in literature review, maybe you have an article and you don't have time. You don't have time to go through all this to read through all the article. You can simply do this auto coding, then or you can do what we call clouding, whereby the system will help you to generate what are the words that appear many times in this, and this will help you to know, oh, actually this article is talking about this, is talking about that. Okay, there's a question, please let me know. So also you can also do coding for picture. So this is you can see the picture there. So this can be just right click on the picture. You can do deductive or inductive coding. We shall see this in the next picture. In the practice session. So we can also code video. When you have video, you can import the video in. The video will be based on the segment. So as the video is playing, you can just highlight any segment and then you can code it. So, and meaning you listen to that particular section or segment, and you can give the meaning. Maybe this segment, these people are discussing about this, or in this video, the issue at this part is this. So you can always give it a name or a short word, which is known as code. So this can be done for video. We shall see this during the practical section. Okay, apart from code in qualitative, in Atlas, we also have memos. I've discussed memo earlier. What do you mean by memo? Is like a space for you to reflect, because if you conduct interview, you may need to take some field notes, just to, apart from what the participant is saying, you may observe different things, maybe the movement, maybe other things that happen, that you can actually write down as your own memo. Is a space for you to reflect on maybe the meaning or the code that you have given at a particular time. So memo can be linked to codes, quotation, and even other memos. So this can be created. It's very simple, by highlighting the segment that you have coded or you want to quote. Then you just create a memo and you give it a name, and it will be attached to it automatically. This we shall see as well in the practical session, hopefully. Apart from memo, we're going to look at network views. This is to have a diagrammatic view of your data, of your codes, quotations, and memos. So this will show you all the analysis that you have done so far. Don't forget that analysis of qualitative research starts from coding. In fact, when you start transcribing your data or maybe interview data, then the analysis have started. And one of the flexibility that you have there, you can start your analysis and you can go back and collect data and you can write your literature review at the same time. Or you can start analysis and go back and write literature review. So it doesn't mean that you have to start from A and end on this side. For qualitative, is very flexible because you may go to the field and you obtain certain information which you need more readings. Then you may go back and read and do more literature on that. And actually, your first interview may influence your second or third interview question. What are you going to ask next? So it's about very flexible because you give people time to talk, or you can observe scenario very clearly. Because researcher, you are the instrument yourself. You are not sending any questions or papers to people to fill online and ask them and collect it without having any deep understanding. So this is very, very different. Okay. So that is that. Network view, there are two types. There is a weak one, whereby you just you link. There is a link between element created through a normal hypothetical process. That is just okay. This thing looks alike. Let us put them together. But there is a very strong link, whereby you are talking about definition and certain things that attribute or contribute to that definition or a concept. This is part of this concept. So that one is a very strong link. So in network view, this can be actually done. But most of the time, I think in many research, people want to look into a strong link. Okay, how to create weak link. I think this one, you can see this later on. This is just the process. So this one, we can look at it later. And this is how it looks like. As you can see here, I see focus moving. And you can see what are the codes that relates to this. These are the codes, and under the code, you can see who said this, and then this is the person that said this, and then what are the quotations that are there. You will see all the quotation. What are the memos that are there? You will see all the memos under this. So this one will actually give you a view of all what you have done from quotation to code, from code to memo, and from memo to the interview transcript. You can see the quotation coming from this. So this will be shown clearly, and you can have a pattern there for you to have a clear understanding of it. So how to do this? This is the way. So this one, this is just the process. This is a very strong one. As you have seen, this one will create a link, and you can actually right click and write, this is the cost of this contradict this is different from this. These are the definition of relationship. Actually, when you move to strong link, you have to give a relationship rather than just showing a link among the family of codes. This is another example. Actually, the Atlas T will give you opportunity to bring in all the relevant codes, all the relevant code for that particular topic or concept that you are discussing. So for example, you can see picture apart from text. It will show all this just to show the link and the relationship and how all this data are actually connected together, and they are connecting together, or they connect together for the essence of making meaning, not just any connection. As you can see, there are patterns here, and the patterns is known as passive, and then there is a code here, or a code, and the code links to a particular memo. So all these are, and once you have the memo, from the memo you can go to the quotation. If the quotation is in form of text, you can see it there. If it is in form of picture, you can see it there. That is how network will enable you to present your data in a very captivating way. And this is how to go about that. So that one can be seen later. Now we may need to move to practical session if there is no question.
There are some questions, Doctor, before
Okay.
we move to the practical section. Okay, the first person said that is it any quantitative research end up with, okay, I think you want to say is it that all quantitative research ends up with theory, and can qualitative research use theory before data collection to guide its research?
Okay, good. That's the first one is any quantitative research ends up to
No,
theory,
qualitative. Yeah,
right?
is it that all qualitative research ends up with theory? Qualitative, you're right. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, okay. Qualitative. Okay. Okay. Not all, but when you have patterns, you may give meaning to the patterns that you have. Not all, especially when you it depends on the design, on the research design that you are using. You may, if you are using phenomenology or case study, you may not actually end up in theory, but you may have a pattern. That's the question. When you have a pattern, then it's up to you how you want to interpret the pattern. Maybe the pattern is if the pattern shows steps, you may theorize there. But actually, the one with grounded theory, you may need to come up with a theory, which is one of the research design in qualitative. So that one, eventually, you will have to come up with sort of proposition. It may not be when you say theory here, it's not a very generalized theory. It is a context theory that is grounded in data. That is what we call grounded theory as one of the research designs. So it's not all. It depends on what the researcher wants to do. If you are trying to look at a process, that leads to certain thing, you may, and when you say process now, then it means this leads to this leads to this. Of course, that is a connection, and that may hence up in theory. And if you are just looking at maybe a phenomena in general and you want to understand that, then you may not actually hence up having a theory. Okay, so that is that. So let me make the question clear. It depends, the answer clear. It depends on the research design. If you are using grounded theory in your research, by having understood what grounded theory is, you may end up having a proposition or a theory, a data grounded theory at the end. If you are using grounded theory as your research design in your thesis. But if you are using other design like phenomenology, case study, or you are using maybe mixed method even, you may not necessarily hence up having a theory. However, you may have a pattern. If a pattern happens, then it's up to you how you want to, whether you want to take it up as a theory or you just want to leave it as it is. But if a pattern happens, you may need to give interpretation. That is that for that. So it is not all that will eventually lead up to theory.
Yes, then
So the second
he
question.
said that can a
The
quantitative
second
yes,
question.
he said can a quantitative research use theory before data collection to guide its research? Qualitative.
Yeah, that is in quali no.
Okay.
Qualitative no, because it's the essence. If you have a theory, then the question you need to ask yourself: what is a theory? You have a variable coming together is like an abstract representation of a complex reality, right? You have a variable there, then it means going to do qualitative, you already have the final answer here. So in quali, it doesn't really. If there is a theory, the theory may be just we are talking about a certain concept, maybe a particular concept that has been discussed, but not a theory that will guide the research. At the end of quali, then you may have a theory if you are using grounded theory, and not vice versa. So that one is not applicable in qualitative to have a theory to guide the research.
Okay, then
Is that clear?
yeah, I think for me it's clear, but I didn't know maybe the who has the question
Okay, the
also.
person, no problem,
Yeah.
no problem, no problem.
Okay.
Okay. So any other question?
Yes, another question from another person said that what is the essence of coding? What is the essence of coding them? I think it means the data. What's the essence of coding our data?
Well, as we have explained earlier, if you want to be a good qualitative researcher, you want to analyze your work very well, you have to do coding. And coding based on what we have said earlier, based on some of the example given, it will actually give you a very brief, and it will show that you understand what the data is saying. Because when you get you get your interview, you get all these things, it will just be there. It will not make meaning to you. It will only make meaning by the time you start reading them and start making meaning from them. It's not making meaning out of them. It is making meaning from them. So when you make meaning within that context, what you are trying to do, whatever you are going to write out, is going to be a form of coding. And that will show that you really, this particular document or text or data is talking about this. So, and it's just like giving a summary to all, to a particular segment or to um, a particular data given. Just like you are doing your literature review, you're going to read and then rewrite to the literature review. Some you reduce a very long sentence to short one. So basically, it's almost the same thing. So coding is very, very important. In fact, it's very, very important, essential in qualitative research. And I'm sure in quantity also you have to do coding. I'm sure, definitely sure that you have to do the same thing in quantity.
Yeah,
Okay,
yes.
so it's very, very important. There is no way, because how will you understand what the data means if you don't code them? Because you can only read or a long text, but you may not really understand. To show your understanding, you have to do the coding. Okay.
Yes. Thank you very much, Doctor. Then another question says that how do we get to the theory in a qualitative analysis? Can we use WhatsApp for
Okay.
interviewers? I,
Yeah, yeah,
I
no,
think you
yeah.
have two different questions here. The first one
Yeah,
says,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
How do we get to
yeah,
theory, and can we use WhatsApp to interview?
yes,
Okay, actually, even in MVivo, there are you can import data from Twitter. It's not only MVivo. Even also, I mean, in Atlasti, or sorry, I'm mixing it. In Atlasti, there is a button you can actually get data from Twitter. And also in MassQDA, which I'm familiar with, you can also do the same thing. I think in MVivo there is a segment for that. So all the social media depends on what you the nature of your research. But to be in term to be more specific on your research, can we use it for interview? And that will be another that will be another thing that we need to look into. So yes, interview can come in different session. If that is the only available option, if that is the only available option for you. But if you have any other option, you can know that WhatsApp is very short text. But if there are other options for you, that would be good. But if that's the only option, then there shouldn't be problem. But if there are other options, I would suggest that you do other option. Either you call them or you do video conferencing as we are doing, and then let them talk. So then you can record and you can transcribe. Actually, the most important thing in Quali is for you to do an in-depth interview, for you to get more information from the interview. It's not just get okay, yes or no, true or false. No. So if you think WhatsApp can do that for you, you can do very in-depth. I think it's not forbidden.
mm,
Okay. Can we in quantitative, right?
yes.
The first question was on
No,
quantitative. That
qualitative,
can
qualitative
qualitative.
analysis.
How
Yeah,
do we arrive at theory?
yes,
Okay. Um, the first thing is when you to arrive at theory, your research must be you must be working with a process. Maybe you are trying to understand a process that leads to certain thing. If your research is in that tune that you are trying to study a process that leads to certain conclusion, you understand? Then definitely you will have a theory, and then the research design, the qualitative research design suitable will be a grounded theory because you are trying to look at the process, and then this process will end up leading to a particular conclusion or to a particular step, I mean concept. Then you will end up having a theory. For example, we have this period we have period of COVID-19, there are some research are conducted. If somebody is having a COVID now, there are so many patients. Before, there will be a process that will lead to that person accepting the situation that he or she finds himself, because it's a very, if not bizarre situation, very scary one. It's everybody, no, nobody will quickly accept immediately. Oh, I accept it. Is no, no, no. It will take certain time. Maybe how the society look at him or her. That's one of the process. How he or she is being treated when they get to the hospital. What about the colleagues who are in the same situation? These are stages. These are processes that will hence up leading to someone who is being inflicted to accept this particular. That is a concept of acceptance there. That okay, I accept. Then you can link this. You can link this up. The first thing, how is the society look at the person, will link to how it's being treated when they get to the hospital. How about the communication with the colleagues, those who are in the same situation? At the end, it will end up to this kind of acceptance and some other scenario like that will end up leading to a particular situation or a particular conclusion. Then definitely you will have a theory. So the most important, sometimes when we do research, we need to understand what exactly am I looking at, the process. Am I looking at is it exploratory, is it explanatory research? And if it is exploratory, what exactly am I doing? Then that you'll be able to know what is the best design for you, what is the best way for you to go about it. I think that one is very, very important. Okay, thank you very
Yeah.
much. I think that is what I can share. Maybe we may
Yeah,
have
I think it's very clear.
more discussion.
Yeah, the question, the answer is very clear, doctor. Thank you. Then another question says that, thank you, doctor. Please, is it compulsory to use Atlas TI for writing an analysis? Then it says, if not, how can you analyze qualitative data manually?
Okay, thank you very much. It is not compulsory to use Atlas TI to analyze your data. It is not compulsory. And you should understand, whatever you are going to do, what Atlas TI is going to do for you is to help you to organize your data. Very nice. And then many people, you can have one project. If you have a very large data, for those who are conducting big research, 3 4 people can be working on this project. At last year I give this opportunity. And then when you how do you to show your data in form of diagram, to show how your code links to your quotation, how your quotation is linked to your memo, you know and how your memo links to other parts of the research. This is very, very wonderful thing that this software can do, but it is not that it is not a must that you have to use it. You can do your analysis using manually. It's no problem. You can do the coding manually. You can do the analysis manually. So, and if you don't know how to do manual analysis, and you may end up finding it difficult to use even any other qualitative software, because you need to understand the concept, you need to understand the procedure. So, like I have mentioned earlier, I show this code. This is the first step. This is manual, right? You read this statement, and at the end you write this is the code. This is what we can deduce. This person said this all along, but what is the word that we can use to represent all this? And meaning code is summative word. It will be very salient. It's very salient, but it will capture all this. For those who are I'm sorry, I'm a bit digressed there. For those who are doing quantitative, for those who do quantitative, if you are familiar with factor analysis, when you do factor analysis, this is exactly what you are doing by clustering and giving name, called labeling. So here you see, you just read this, and these are very salient essence or signs that we can get from. So this is the first step for the person that asked the question. If you want to do it manually, this is the first step. But you have to go through a lot of documents, and it depends on how many documents you are looking at. If it is very many documents, you have 10 interview, for example, or 15 or 20 interview. So you may have to go through, manually citing, getting notes, writing something for you to So it may be a very long exercise, but interesting. So I must confess to you, you like it when you are doing it, but it may be very long. So this is the procedure. You start with coding by looking at the statement in each interview that you have, or picture, and you start writing the meaning that you can get. And from there, you move on to categorization. I didn't put the slide here, so if not, after this, I'm supposed to show you how you categorize all this manually, and then it will hands up to the subcategory, like I show here, to hand up to this categorization. After the codes will combine together to form a category. You understand? And the category maybe is further divided, or you combine the category to form a theme. So, and from theme you can have a theory if you are having a theory laden design, be it grounded theory. And if you are not, it's not compulsory. So that's what I can say about that.
Yeah.
So it's not compulsory that you use Atlas T.
Yes, it's
Thank
very
you.
clear, doctor. Then someone also asks, can we do the coding in Excel?
Yes, no problem.
Okay.
The coding can be done in Excel. So if you, but the most important thing is, so you must have the full transcription if it is interview, and then you start doing your coding. So no problem, Excel can be used.
Okay, then another person, but I am not sure if this question is relevant to the this thing now. He said that please how can we design our questions interview based on what? On literature view.
Okay. Your interview question will come from your research question. Okay. So in qualitative, you will have basically the issue of concern. Mostly the issue of concern will reflect in your problem statement and your introduction. From there, you will have a general question or a purpose statement, and from that purpose of study or purpose statement, then you will have a question, research question. So from that research question, you will form your interview question. For example, if I said my research question is what are the factors that leads to satisfaction uh, among parents. So now this is my research question. So under this, I will design, or I will come up with interview question that I will use when I go to the field. So maybe I will ask, okay, how do parents define satisfaction? What is your understanding of satisfaction? That would be a research question. An interview question under the research question. What are the factors that leads to parent satisfaction? So this is so you in a nutshell you get your interview question from your research question, and your research question will come from your issue of concern, which is in somewhere in your introduction and problem statement and purpose of study. So I'm not sure if that question is well answered, but that's what I can say for now.
Yeah, I think it's clear, doctor. I think we can move to the practical section now. Thank you, doctor.
O-
Yeah.
Okay, for the practical session, I'm not sure all of us have Atlas T, but no problem. If you don't have, we just continue. So as you can see on the screen, can you see the screen?
Yes,
You will
doctor. Yes, you
see
can see.
Atlas T. This is mostly when I have a project here, I decide to delete the project so that I can start from the scratch. But before the time, hopefully we can do something. So the first thing, when you install the software and your computer, you can have trial version. In fact, now you can get trial version for version 8 of Atlas T. Download. So the first thing is for you to create a project. If you haven't gotten any project before, you create. If you have a project somewhere in your system, you can just import project. You just click here, then the project will come, and then you can start working on it. But here, since I decide that I want to start from beginning, just for us to start together. I decided to start. Let's start from zero. Now we click on this. It will ask you what is the name of the project. So we just write the name of the project. I'm going to put distance education. So that is that. So I've created the name for the project. Mind you, you don't just, if you create the project name, it means you have the data about this particular project. This may be your thesis title, you can write it there. This may be, and I mean, your research title, you can put it there. That's the name of the project. And you click create. Say, okay, once you click on create, it will create the project for you. Let's wait for a while. So as soon as the project is created, then so you can see that it will show this particular interface, meaning that the project has been created. So as you can see here, distance education at last, this is a trial version. Actually, I'm using trial version. So okay, now the next step here is to import all your data. And one of the wonderful things about this new, you can see all the navigation button, everything that you want to do is here: import, export tools, home. So the face that we show here, what you see here is the home face. That is home here. You see this? And if you don't know, I don't know what all these tools are used for. Just put your cursor on it. It will show you the interpretation that you can read. You just read, okay, how to use each of the button. It's written there, then you can read it, and then you can proceed with whatever you want to do. So it can actually guide you towards the usage. For example, this one also, this one, it will show you. Just put on any of the button that you have, it will tell you what this button is used for and what can be done with it. So now the next thing that we're going to do now is to import document. And if you can recall, in our presentation, I said you can import text document, you can import pictures, you can import video. So I'm going to click on this, click on add document. You click on add document, so you can add file. If it is file, you can add folder, you can add video or picture. So I'm going to add file. So here I have, for this workshop, I created a folder. So I have this interview template that interview question that I have used before. I'm going to import some of this document here. So you can just click on anyone. So let's take this chart 2. Just double click to the end. As you see, you can look at this part. It will show document 1, and then the whole text will appear here. Let's wait for a while. So this is the interview question. You can scroll down, you can even edit if you want to. Okay, so I will, if you want to import more, you just go back to home, you go back, you click on add document, add files. Let's take this, let's take Khalib. Okay, so the second document will be there. This is the first one, this is the second one. Okay, let's take in video. I'll take in this video. Open. You can see the video is in there. So these are the text. Let's look for a picture. Okay, what is this picture? Let's bring this picture. You can see that the picture is also in there. So now we have 3 set of documents that we mentioned. So now here we have 4 documents. So under the document, this is what we have 4 documents. So now the first step in Quali is done. You have done your interview, you have collect all the data. Now you have imported all the data into the Atlas. So the next thing is to start coding. Is to start what? Coding. So now for the coding, you have to, like we mentioned earlier, you just try to highlight any segment, and then you just give it a name. Now, someone asked me a question earlier about how do we do interviews. So you can see these are interview questions. How do you ensure that instructors organize and establish interaction between course, content, and students? So these are interview questions derived from research questions. So based on this interview question, we got this response. So then we are going to start coding this response. Okay, I will explain this later on. So let's say, for example, we look at this start discussion with the student in the forum. Okay, ask them to refer to the related section. So I can, so okay, this part is is talking about forum discussion. So maybe we can talk about interaction here, right? So there are two ways. You just right click this. You right click this. And when you right click, then it will give you options. You can see all the options. We have open coding, we have NVivo coding, and then you can list of other coding that you can link together. So if you or you can just create a free quotation. You understand? So if I click on this, it's going to give me a free quotation. Everybody say, okay, so start discussion. So this is a free quotation, a quote. Maybe you want to remember this, or there are certain things that you want to. Okay, let me go back to home. I want to add one more document. Excuse me. So I want to add one more document. Let's say a PDF file. I think I would like to add that. So one PDF file I would like to add. Okay, sorry, I may be using NVivo and Atlas P differently. So I use NVivo more than this. So never mind. So sorry. So this is a PDF document talking about distance education. So we will use this as a practice. So this is Atlas T, as you can see. So now this is the coding. I mean, this is a free quotation. So you can do this as a free quotation, or you can do it as a coding. Now the next, let's look at coding. Let's say this part is talking about ask them to refer to the related section in the course material before starting their discussion. So let's say maybe this one is you right click, we can use open coding now. Under the open coding, you look at the meaning that you can get from this. For example, this section I can start, okay, since the lecturer will start discussion, will allow them the discussion interaction between material and then the student, they have to interact. So I can put interactive. So this doesn't mean that what I put, you have to put the same thing. It may be different because we have different. I can put students center here. What you can, whatever meaning that you can deduce or you can attribute to this particular code. So what we have here is what is a quotation. Now what I'm doing now, I'm trying to give a code to this particular quotation. So I'm going to click create. So these two code has been given to this particular quotation. So I can move to the next topic and ask, okay, encourage. So you can move on like that. You can actually, and what we did just now, these are called inductive coding. Inductive coding. Now, here, let's see this. If this is related to any of these code that we have here, because if you look under code, it says two codes is here already. So you can always pick any one of these two and drag and drop on this and create your code. So here we have okay, this is the another sentence. What can we make from this? Facilitate interaction. We can say, okay, we have interactive here. I can just drag here from interactive and drop it on hit on this side. It will be here. Okay, so as we keep on doing that, so communicate with them about expectation before the semester. So this is another question. So what is this? You can say, okay, communication. Open coding, communication. Okay, so you can, what other things can you say? Maybe if you have any other code that you want to attribute to this particular quotation, so you can actually do that. Then you can click on create. So we have this. So this is one document. So you have to do the coding for this particular document, this for this person until the end, and then you move to the next one, you move to the next one. Okay, so let's pick a few more just for the practice. Students are happy with it. Some students prefer WhatsApp. Okay, we have WhatsApp here for interaction. Then we can code here to be what? Since this has not been done before, we just put here social media. Okay. Okay, so what else can we put there? When you talk about social media, you talk about what? Flexibility. Okay, flexibility. Okay, so that's all. You can say yes. Okay, that one is done. I think flexibility also interactive also is part of this. I can drag and drop interactive also here. So it's also here, flexibility interactive. Okay, so let me go to the next document, maybe video, or we look at this Khalib. You will see same question, then you can do the coding on and on for this. If we don't have more coding, then we may not be able to use some of the features well, but let's just, at least maybe next time we will have a session. I haven't understood what quality mean, then we can have a session on this one. So here there is, when they were asked, how do you establish interaction between course and students? This person mentioned LMS here, and back we use LMS. So we can put LMS also as one of the codes. Put learning management. Okay. So I think if you have any other meaning that you want to give, then you can add. If not, you just create this. This is for this particular document. So, and you can read on, but this one has to be done thoroughly. This one has to be done thoroughly. So there are a lot of things that you can code from here. There are so many things that have been said, but let's skip this and let's go to this. You can see here also, this person is talking about, no, actually we have what we call LMS, and this. So again, LMS, the word LMS is here until this place, or you can actually do it maybe by auto coding if you feel that you want to check more on how many. So I can use even this. No need, you can just drag LMS here. Just drag this and put here. So this will be good. So that is how you work on decoding. So let's see, how do we code a video? So this is a video here. This is the video. So you just have to click and drag. So I can click on this and drag onto this place, maybe onto this place, and then I can right click here. You can code to see which coding, open coding, list of coding. So I can, then before you code, you can actually play this video, this portion that you can play this. So this is that. So you can play it, you can edit, you can do whatever you want with this. It's very, very friendly, user friendly. So you can, I can just code this. I can say, okay, if I have drop this code here, use of social media, just put it. So it will automatically code to that. And then, so that is how to code video. So if it is a picture, as we have here, so there's a picture. So you can actually code this picture. You can take any part of it, just highlight. So I can highlight this part, this portion, or or this portion, for example. So you can right click, open code,